Hello and welcome to the Vocal Sound Healing Podcast. My name is Alexandra Rigazzi-Tarling. I'm a vocal sound healing practitioner and trainer and a vocal coach and technician. And I've been working with voice for well over 25 years as a former opera singer, and I've been training vocal sound healers for about the last 10 years. And I'm bringing everything voice and vocal sound healing to this podcast for discussion. So thank you for joining me for episode 9, and we're calling this Time to Resensitise for Healing. So, as you know, my podcasts are inspired by my experiences from my one-to-one teaching from voice, both technical voice and healing voice, as well as my vocal sound healing clients and the vocal sound healing practitioner courses I teach. And one of the topics that undoubtedly comes up as a result of working, I think, with any healing modality. And by healing, I mean where we're tuning into the creative force of the universe and facilitating energy movement for a client via that source. One of the main things that comes up is intuition. And of course, some people are used to working with intuition, perhaps because they've been brought up that way and it's never been shut down. They've been taught, or I think really allowed, to understand the subtleties of their own unique inner voice and how that speaks to them. And not only to tune into it, but to follow it, so to actually be able to recognize how it's speaking to them and to live their life from that place. And, others might work with that sort of guiding force within them, but not call it intuition. But it's, probably part and parcel of the same thing. We're calling it intuition. And, some might not be connected at all to that part of themselves and live directed by the constructs of others, whether family, friends, professional expectation even, and so on. So, there are some people that definitely hook into that intuitive sense of being, and others that for whatever reason don't. And that's fine either way, no expectation, no judgment. But when we come to work with healing voice, we're definitely having to step into that realm of intuition. When we're working with healing, that sense of tapping into, as we said, the creativity, the creative force of the universe, and facilitating that for others. We are working with this intuitive guidance. And so, as usual, what I bring to these podcasts are usually huge topics, and this like other episodes so far, is a sort of preliminary exploration, because what I actually want to talk about with regards to intuition is the sensitivity that's needed for intuition, and the sensitivity that's needed in relation to being a vocal sound healer, and how when people start working with this modality, it often becomes about resensitizing to sensations felt within and bigger feelings that might have been suppressed or ignored, and acknowledging that as a human being, you actually function as an antenna for all the frequencies and signals around you. You can tune into whatever you want, but you first need to realize how you might already be doing that and not actually even knowing it. So again, this podcast is aimed at vocal sound healers, but I think this really works across the board for healers and really as people, as human beings, because it helps us understand our nervous system and how we might dissipate energy if we're highly sensitive. Because if we're highly sensitive, we're constantly picking up on the energy of all those around us and possibly taking this on as our own, believing that what we're picking up is actually ours, not realizing that we're picking it up from somewhere else. So, as humans, our desire and need to co regulate is so strong that naturally we connect our energy to those around us. And, this probably stems from the basic human need to belong and to be in community. But knowing that this is a natural human thing, we need to be more aware of it. So we're not just in training to energies that are sending us out of balance. And often, people ask what it takes to be a sound healer. And it's my belief that we're all hardwired to be healers, but for whatever reason, perhaps because of conditioning, life events, or even just, fitting into the social norm, we might have moved away from our innate healing wisdom, our desire to heal others, or even believe that we can heal others. And I think here, let's just look at what we mean by healing. We mean that humans have the capability to offer other humans or other beings, animals as well, of course, a boost of energy to assist their health, to assist their well-being, their nervous system, to help them co-regulate, or just entrain to a more coherent and balanced frequency. And if this is the first podcast of mine you're listening to, I suggest revisiting earlier episodes where I talk about energy and vibration and how everything we perceive from a quantum viewpoint, and actually from a traditional viewpoint as well, because the vibrational aspect is traditional physics. But this viewpoint helps us understand that the world we live in is pure energy and sound. And so, from this perspective, healing and assisting others to energize and to balance and to ultimately heal doesn't seem like something, far out at all. It's perfectly logical. But it will just depend on your perspective and, the sort of paradigm that you choose to exist in and your viewpoint. So, being able to work with healing for others relies on us being able to feel, to be in touch with those subtle changes that happen within us from moment to moment, or, when we go from place to place, or when we interact with different people. So it relies on our ability to read our own senses like a language and not get caught up in the feeling response. So, for example, when we feel fear or sadness or anxiety, we need to look around us just for a minute and say, are these feelings mine? Because if you're naturally sensitive, which in all honesty, I think we all are at some level, you might be projecting your nervous system outside of yourself and sensing into everything and everyone else around you. So you might only, really need to stand near someone, think of someone, feel into a situation, even far removed from you, like on the news, for example, and you might start to pick up on that energy. So, think of yourself as an antenna, and your mind and your body is the tuner. And you can tune in with whatever you want, but you also might tune in with things you don't want, and through entrainment begin to align with that. And you might not even know you're doing it. So, there seems to be a shift in the collective in this present time where we're all exhibiting highly sensitive tendencies, but we don't know how to manage what we're feeling. And, many of us shut down and numb with alcohol, drugs, overwork, overdoing, all of that. And, we even drug our children because we don't understand that if they're highly sensitive and picking up on everything around them, that their nervous system is going to go into overload. So, this could manifest as anxiety, as hyper or hypoarousal. So, they have so much energy because they're being overstimulated. And instead of trying to understand that new paradigm of being, we're trying to fit young people into our old, outdated viewpoints, not realizing that actually perhaps this new wave of beings coming into our world, of children coming into our world, are operating on a much more sensitive software. They're coming to life at a completely different place. And we're saying, whoa, you're depressed or you're too hyper. And we drug them. But actually their sensitivities are there to really help us evolve, to help us move into this new era of healing. And for adults, perhaps, the other side of this is that, many of us have learnt at a very, very early age that it wasn't safe to feel, that it was too overwhelming, that, with all of these feelings and sensations, there was no sense of control. So we learnt to switch off that subtle feeling because it was just too distracting, too much. And then we're actually choosing not to engage with those aspects of ourselves just because we didn't know how to cope with it. It was just too much. So, we sort of pushed it down. But the problem was that we didn't stop actually feeling it. We just stopped acknowledging what our body was telling us and learned to dissociate. And so when we did that, we stopped hearing our body's wisdom as it was trying to communicate with us. So, shutting down this subtlety of feeling, I don't think it makes us feel any better, but perhaps it gives the illusion that we're safe and in control. Perhaps we feel, we've got a hold of it. But energetically, it means that we start to move away from the natural flow of energy in our body, the natural river of energy that we are. And that flow of energy that supports our life, supports our wellness. And, if that's starting to stagnate because we're suppressing things, that's going to create mood changes and ultimately illness. So, the flow of emotion is so important so that we can understand ourselves better. And it's only when we're allowed to flow that our emotions and the flow of those emotions can start to balance themselves and we can start to learn about it. So the body was designed to soothe and regulate through the act of crying, for example, or laughing. And on a physical level, both laughing and crying connect with the diaphragm, they connect with the voice, they're connecting them with the vagus nerve. So it's naturally just allowing ourselves to engage in those responses, see them through, let the energy flow through, let the emotion flow through, and then move on, where actually it's allowing our body to build good vagal tone. There's an acknowledgement of the emotion. The body goes through its process. The voice is stimulated, the diaphragm is stimulated, the vagus nerve is stimulated. And then we allow this emotion just to move through. And it has a rise and a fall and it's done. Like babies, like children, you'll see them have a massive sort of crying fit for a couple of minutes, and then 5 minutes later, it's like nothing happened. They might fall over and hurt themselves, and there's a massive cry, and we rush and we soothe them, and then it's all done because they were allowed to let it pass through. And sound healer Vicky Dodd, in her book Healing Through Sound, she talks about matter in our system solidifying as a result of stress and tension. And she talks about, and that's a woman after my own heart here because this is what we talk about on this podcast, she talks about humming to vibrate the body and keep our system of matter, so the water, the blood, the plasma, the tissue, the fascia, all of it, keep it moving. So actually using the vibration of the hum to consciously keep everything in flow. And, we understand in the world of sound that shock and trauma manifests as stuck and frozen energy. So it's literally the energy stops flowing, it stops moving. And, when we don't allow it to flow, when we don't get that energy redirected back into flow and we close down, we can't get away from that stuckness. We can't get away, we can't release the trauma, we can't release the shock, we can't release the sadness. It gets stuck. And then that can manifest as both physical and emotional illness. So, as vocal sound healers, we use our sensitive abilities directly in the work that we're doing. So, when I teach therapeutic vocal sound healing practitioner courses, I teach people to work with the voice over the human body, and we work with something called vocal scanning. And vocal scanning is when we choose a clear, resonant tone. It can be a hum, it can be an ooh sound, an ah sound, on a pitch that feels comfortable, and we work with that. And we begin, let's say, for example, at the client's right foot, and we gently start moving up from the foot on the right side of the body. And we run this tone through the energy field of the client, but really quite close to the physical body. So sort of in the etheric body, but we're really in the physical mass. And, we are in essence using our voice as a bridge to tune into the client's energy and look for where there might be disruptions in that flow of energy through the sound. And as sound healers, our job is literally to identify areas of lack of flow in the energy and then gently and safely begin to move the energy again, or even enhance the energy with sound where it's lacking, and to try to re-establish a sense of flow, but also a feeling of harmony and coherence in the energy. So we're really listening to the energy, we're listening to what comes back at us from the client's energy, the tune, the harmony, the coherence. And if we think about anthropologist Rudolf Steiner's idea of the human body, that each of the organs are like instruments, instruments in an orchestra, and that each instrument or body part needs to be in tune and needs to be in flow. And if one is out of tune or not flowing, it begins to affect the tuning of the whole orchestra, or in this example, of the whole body. And when that happens, we start to feel out of sorts, out of tune, conditions such as tiredness and illness set in, and the energy in the body starts to solidify, which feels like tension and stiffness. So, as sound healers, we're using sound vibration, which science tells us is a pressure wave. So, sound, this pressure wave, is literally moving molecules in matter. So, solid objects, our bodies, the air, liquid, the ether, and it has the ability to touch us. Literally, this pressure wave has the ability to touch us and move us. So when we sound in someone's energy, the sound doesn't just disappear, it sets up a form of movement, a wave of movement through the molecules, through all the liquid, through the matter, and so on. So as vocal sound healers, we're sensing that movement of energy or that lack of movement. And sometimes where there is energy stagnation that people might call an energy block, if we're open to it, if we allow our intuitive sensitivity, then we might receive an impression or an intuitive insight about what might be causing that lack of flow. We're in that conversation with the body, we're in the energy field, so our sensitivity helps us to hear the language of the energy of the body. And that could manifest as a fluctuation in the voice as you scan, because the sound in itself is being used to sense into that. Or it could feel like a block in the throat, like a sort of phlegm or something, like you've hit against something. You might sense a change of temperature in the area. You might get a sense of a feeling or emotion within you, or even pick up on a physical sensation in your own body. And intuition and the ability to allow sensitivity can speak to us in so many ways. And if you're not used to noticing these physical or subtle energetic fluctuations, you might not even know they're happening until you come on a vocal sound healing training with me, and then you get asked to start by sensing with your voice over a client, and then to see if anything else accompanies you as you start this sensing and this sounding. So, back to the title of this podcast, I think in many cases, what people are getting asked to do, especially when they come for vocal sound healing training, but I think there's too many parallels here into daily life. But certainly when you come to train as vocal sound healer, you will be asked to begin to resensitize. You're asked to notice subtleties of feeling, emotional flow, visuals, to listen into the silence and notice then what you're instinctively guided to do. Where are you drawn? Where does your energy move as a result of that conversation with the client's energy body? And in a world where many people are numbing themselves so they can't feel, we are actually training ourselves to feel at a level of subtle energy. And the more you work with this, the more you listen to the vibrations of this subtlety, the more you start to notice it, the more you begin to see a new level of reality in the world around you and in the people that you're interacting with. So, if we're all so naturally sensitive, why is this sometimes so hard? And it's not hard for everybody. As I said, some people, even if they've never worked with intuition in this way, applying it to someone else in a practice healing session, they take to it. And I think that people take to it so quickly, even if they're not used to it. I think they take to it because someone is giving them permission. Someone, usually me, in a training situation, is giving permission and allowing them to do what they know naturally, what their body instinctively knows, this sensing, this intuition. And it's such a relief. It's like they've come home. So people come on my courses and I sit back in amazement at how they pick up the protocols after demonstration, of course, after the theory and all the rest of it, and they just do it. And they might not be super familiar or confident, but they just do it. And it's incredible to watch someone intuitively exploring someone else's energy field with their voice and with their senses. And even online, and I'll definitely be doing a podcast about that as we've learned so much since the pandemic about distant energy movement by working online. And the courses I teach run in person and online. And some of the things we see and witness are incredible, at a distance. But whatever you're doing, either way, and with all of it, you begin to build your own unique language of intuition. And this comes from practice. This comes from doing case studies, practicing, observing, noting, returning back, working again, back and forth. You are literally, it's a journey of learning a new language, a language of sensitivity, of trust in yourself, the language of intuition. And this journey takes us away from fear. And it's not only a journey into how somebody's energy field might be showing up, It's a journey in getting to know yourself again, but this time on a whole new level, whole new level. And that can be challenging because you're opening up to these sensitivities that you might have been suppressing your whole life. And then your energy starts to flow, your circuits start to connect up, and you start to step into a whole new version of you. And this can be life-changing. You see everything differently. You start to look at the world as energy. You start to want to take care of yourself better so you feel okay. And you learn to energetically clear yourself and to protect yourself from what others are projecting. So, if you've been fortunate on your life's journey to be able to explore your sensitivities and relate it to intuition, you will understand how entrainment works and you'll know how to protect yourself without shutting down. Because that's the thing, protection and safety in energy shouldn't mean shutting yourself down. And we need to understand how to work with our free language of sensitivity without trying to get a read on everyone all the time. Because if you do, it's exhausting. If you know this, if you understand this, you can't sense everyone around you all the time so that you can guarantee your safety. And I think that's where we're going wrong. And if you don't realize you're super sensitive, you try to, unconsciously sense into the world all the time, and that's going to zap your energy. And it's different when you're working in a healing environment because we have certain protocols and setups to help us with this. But, speaking now to people perhaps outside of the healing world, you want to be able to allow sensitivity, allow emotion, allow it all, but understand that you keep that within your own boundary of energy. You don't send the feelers out to sense everybody else all the time because you feel unsafe. So I think awareness is key to begin with. Notice your emotions and notice your sensitivity. Do you shut down or do you let emotions flow? Were you that child at school that used to get afraid because somebody else was getting told off? That was me. I used to be afraid for everybody else and what they were going through. That sort of natural projection, I can see it now. And do you feel your mood shift? For example, when you watch the news and you hear about all these things going on in the world, and do you carry that around with you all day? Or can you let that flow out, discharge? And how do you feel around other people? Do you prefer to keep away from other people, keeping, being in your own company? Perhaps feel safer. It feels safer to be alone. And perhaps you ignore emotion altogether, but wonder why you've got high blood pressure, for example. So, notice whichever direction you're coming from, it's that awareness that's key. And if you're already sensitive and know it, how often are you projecting your nervous system outside of yourself and feeling tired and exhausted from, just feeling into what others feel and what the collective is going through? It's okay to be sensitive. This is what we're saying. This is good. We need to be sensitive and learn the language of sense and intuition. But there's a difference in putting that out there all the time and also keeping your energy for you, for your life force, your life essence. You don't have to look at other people and sort of try to anchor your energy in them. What you actually need to do is see yourself as that anchor, that grounding antenna. You've got the sensitivity in the antenna, but it's grounded into the earth, anchored into the earth, and you protect your energy from that stability rather than putting it out to everybody else, trying to find stability through everybody else. It's like knowing your own ability to ground and center. And if you know you're sensitive, but you're shutting it down, then just have a think about it. It's like putting on earmuffs and then, you're only hearing half of the sounds. You're only hearing half of the information that someone might be saying to you. Um, and you might find, if you are sort of shutting it all down, you're aware, but you're shutting it down, you might feel that you get more stressed, sort of more easily, um, because the energy is not flowing and you're building up a sort of sense of static in your system. That the flow, we think of emotion, energy motion, that energy is not being allowed to flow through your body. Flow, be dealt with, discharge. So this can lead to ungroundedness as your energy gets really high up around your head and it gets unstable and you lose that earth tether. So, this can feel like anxiety, even things like clumsiness, having accidents, dropping things. And then ultimately not being able to really see the fruits of your work and intentions because you'll have trouble manifesting, things into your life, into this sort of physical realm. So I think, wherever you are with all of this, whether you're a vocal sound healer and you're working with your own boundaries of energy sensitivity, if you're prone to being a magnetic healer, so you pick up on the pain and the energy of others, and you're just working through this, or whether you're somebody out there who's super sensitive but afraid of it and, not able to hear that intuitive self because you're afraid of all the emotions. Or if you're someone listening to this thinking, I've no idea what she's talking about, but yeah, maybe I do, shut my emotions down a little bit, wherever you're at, because we're all different, aren't we? We're all coming from different places in life, different pathways. But wherever you're at, start a daily humming practice. Start to tap into your nervous system from this practice of humming that naturally encourages regulation and not only encourages regulation, but actually starts to get this energy, this matter flowing and moving in your body. So where stuff might be getting stuck, it's going to start a gentle sensation of movement. And as you hum, visualize yourself being filled up with your sound. That's literally the sound of you, your vibration. You're completely unique. Your voice, it's a bit like fingerprints. Your voice is, there is no other sound like it. There is no other frequency like your voice, because what actually allows your voice to sound like you is the shape of you, your physiology. You are a resonator. You are an acoustic space. And because of how you are formed, your voice sounds a certain way. So this vibration that is you is a huge part of you. And so if you're feeling uncertain, unstable, lacking in self-confidence, in self-worth, in self-groundedness, in that anchor of self that we talked about, then we need to find that first so that you can really stabilize the energy, allow the emotions to flow, and develop the language of intuition. So as you hum, visualize yourself being filled up with the sound of you, your frequency, your vibration. And this will make you feel more resilient. And take the hum with you everywhere you go. Take it out with you. Take it in the car, take it on the street. I mean, it's quiet. It's not a projected outward hum. It's a gentle vibration within. Use it to soothe yourself when you're stressed, to calm yourself if stuff's going on. Use it to mobilize yourself. The last episode we talked about overwhelm and freeze response. Use it to mobilize if you go into that. And just start to listen to your body when you hum. Listen to any feelings, notice any visuals, notice what floats by, what the mind sends. Just notice. Notice your temperature, notice how you feel before and after. And keep checking in with this, keep working with the hum. And I would say, it's a practice. Do this for a good few months. It takes that time to settle into it and to also make that commitment to yourself and that practice. So, using the hum to move your energy, like this internal cellular sonic massage. And if you allow a few months to do it, try and do it every day if you can. And as I said, take it out and about with you. You don't have to just sit and do it. Take it with you, use it as a tool, use it as medicine. And just notice how things develop. Notice how you feel. Journaling might be a good idea, just to notice, because sometimes we miss things, don't we? And I want you to notice those really subtle things: temperature, feeling, a fleeting image, someone that pops into your mind. It might be colour, might be shapes. I'd like you just to notice what comes to you and not discard anything. And this is the beginning of resensitizing for healing, resensitizing to learn your unique intuitive language. And it is different for everyone. There are similarities, but your language, your intuition will speak to you differently to somebody else's. And you can't compare. Your experience, your life, your senses, your sound is different from everybody else. And that's okay. We're all part of this puzzle that, when we put it together, makes this incredible wholeness, oneness. So give it a go, see how you get on. And yeah, maybe even leave me a comment. Let me know. Let me know how you get on. So I hope that's been helpful in some ways. We're looking to resensitize for healing, resensitize to understand our own intuitive language. And it's a journey. It's a journey. But it's an amazing one. Absolutely amazing one. And once you've gone on it, you can't go back, and you just keep learning more and more and more. So I really, really encourage it. See what you find. So thank you very much for joining me once again. If you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, do subscribe, and then you get little alerts when a new episode comes out. And it's always a pleasure to connect with you. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for giving me the time of day. And I hope that what I offer resonates in some way. So take good care, folks. I'll see you next time, and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye for now.